Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to you and yours. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 378 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from all over LA. But Corey is there in the brand new OTA LA studios from Dogtown, which LA would prefer us to call Mission Junction, California, continuing the white gentrification of formerly colored neighborhoods all over Los Angeles. Thanks, Corey.
I'm right across the street from the former Ellis Island of Los Angeles, as it's called. So I like to...
Don't tell the rest of the people who live there that, or else they may want to move out.
I don't know. Wouldn't you want to live on an island right outside of New York if you could?
Hell no. Have you been to Ellis Island? It's the worst. It's windy all the time. It's stormy. Nobody wants to live there.
All right, fine. You can listen to this podcast wherever you get fine podcasts. The easiest way, anchor.fm/O The Anthem. The easiest way because it'll take you directly to the link of the podcatcher you use to listen to whatever podcast you listen to.
Especially this one.
Especially this one.
Fine, high quality podcast. Okay, so we have a couple of things we need to cover this week as soon as I pull up my list of stuff. But of course, we have to start out with the 4th of July because apparently that's a thing that people celebrate, and it happened this past weekend.
Yeah, and here in LA, I don't know how it was for you in Hollywood last night, but out here, the fireworks were pervasive. They were long. I always think it's I almost feel like we would get less fireworks if the mayor just said they're legal now. Don't you think? Like, there's almost a part of me that feels like the reason why there's so many fireworks is because they're illegal. Like,
I agree. I think it's the well, one, I think they canceled a couple of the fireworks shows, so then people were like, "Well, screw it, let's put on our own show." But every year they're big. New Year's, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, they're always big. So, I do. I think there's a level of like, there was a coordinated show across the entire Southland area to put up in fireworks. Fuck LAPD. So I think that basically says everything that you need to say about how people feel about the law and otherwise. But
it's so funny. I saw that video that you had retweeted on Twitter or something like that. But I don't know if that video footage came from an LAPD helicopter. But that would be hysterical if it's just like. Could you just imagine you're flying around in your helicopter and all of a sudden you just see fireworks go off that's like fuck Rob and you're just like, why?
See, but I'm the kind of person who would be like, all right, yeah, let's say it. Listen, hate me or love me, at least you're talking about me. That's really what I care about.
I'm entering friendly skies here.
I don't react to that by going out and beating a bunch of people in neighborhoods of color. But, that's the difference between me and the LAPD. We handle things slightly different.
Yeah.
But not the only LAPD related fireworks story, because at the beginning of the weekend, like Thursday, I think, they made a small error, I guess you could say, with a destruction of illegal fireworks. Maybe they misjudged the payload on some fireworks that they were going to destroy.
Yeah, so basically there was I couldn't get if it was like a shipment or if they just pulled somebody over who had a shit ton of fireworks on their car or something like that. But like one thing or another, they found a huge stockpile of fireworks. And then they thought, how are we going to properly dispose of all these fireworks so that they don't cause a big problem? And they decided to, I guess it blew up in the car or something like that. And...
No. They put them in the bomb disposal.
Oh, that's right.
The bomb disposal box. But the problem is, here, fireworks are not bombs. I can look at a stick of C4 and I know the apparent yield of a stick of C4. So like when they are disposing of bombs, what you see on TV or on the movies is accurate, but also not, because like a human being goes in there and is like, all right, there's 3 sticks of dynamite, we're good. Or they say 3 sticks of C4. I'm going to carefully separate the sticks and have the robot go and drop it into the bomb disposal box, because 1 stick of C4 isn't all the yield that box can handle. But the math on fireworks can be different. And apparently they overloaded the box, and the overpressure created by the yield basically just ripped the explosives box apart. And also ripped apart the truck that the boxes kept on and some of the vehicles nearby, and blew up windows for blocks. One of the sources on the story that I read said that the actual explosion from the box set off other explosives that were like waiting to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Because of course they didn't use the robot. It's fireworks. These are totally safe. And then so they had more of them just sitting by there like, all right, we'll blow these up, then we'll drop some more in, we'll blow these up. But the initial explosion set off other ones, which then decimated several blocks of downtown Los Angeles, which you might think is weird until you realize that in 1960s, the Philadelphia Police Department dropped an actual bomb on a neighborhood in West Philadelphia. So, par for the course.
This one was at least on the ground, I guess, at the very least.
And it was accidental, I guess you could say. I mean, sure, accidental. Or the police looked around and like, you know what? Nothing in this neighborhood looks like it's that valuable. Just toss them on in there, fill it up to the brim. I'm sure that won't be a problem.
I mean, you know what? It would have been really nice if everyone had just like taken a break on the personal individuals took a break on the fireworks for the night, because there were a couple fires that got started from people shooting off fireworks around LA. But it would be so nice. It'd be so nice if there was none of that, and LAPD was the only person who caused any damage with fireworks. And then you could go to the council and you could be like, listen, not a single incident happened from any of our fireworks, but the LAPD, they're the only ones who caused any damage with fireworks this weekend. So,
well, they canceled the public displays because they shoot them off from uninhabited areas so that they can be seen by inhabited areas. But unfortunately, California is going through a huge drought. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but they were worried about the wildfire hazard of shooting them off from like the park and then catching the park on fire to have a fireworks show. And I only wish that individuals had that much concern when they did, gender reveals.
Yeah, but at least for that.
Such a problem. But I mean, listen, the LA was not the only city who had to cancel their fireworks display. Unfortunately, back at home, Ocean City, Maryland also had to do the same for similar reasons. It was funny, on Thursday, we saw a video of like the LA bomb disposal box just being torn apart on the back of a truck. And then on Sunday, woke up to images of a Ryder truck like being ripped apart. In the background was clearly Ocean City. And I was just like, oh my God, what happened? Clicking on the story, because of course you think like Ryder truck, Timothy McVeigh, like bombing.
Right.
Nope. The city of Ocean City improperly stored the fireworks for their display, and then they exploded prematurely and blew up the truck that was holding them on the beach at the inlet. So nobody there, clearly, nothing to worry about. And it closed portions of the boardwalk and canceled the fireworks display out of an abundance of caution.
Can you imagine being either the LAPD officer or the person in charge of the OC fireworks display, like calling your boss and just being like, hey, so you remember how we had that truck full of fireworks? Like, you had one job, Jerry. You had one
Four
job.
times a year we call you out. You have one job. I imagine more. So for senior week, I had a hotel for maybe 3 days. And then after that, I realized that I had spent one night in the hotel room I was paying for because I just passed out wherever I happened to be and then woke up the next morning and went back to my hotel to shower. Didn't seem like a good use of time and resources. So I ended up crashing with some folks on multiple days. And that hotel was at 4th Street and 4th Street in the boardwalk. And I can just imagine, laying there on some stranger's floor who I passed out the night before and being awoken at 7:30 a.m. on a Sunday to the sound of many pounds of explosives going off just a few hundred feet away. And I don't know what all those poor tourists would have thought who were all staying down at the inlet. But if your thought was, I'm never going to come back to Ocean City again, good. No, never come back. I don't even live there. It's just a deep-seated sentiment in my life.
There's many of beaches. You can go elsewhere. North Carolina is lovely this time of year.
Pennsylvania and New Jersey people, go back to your old beaches. Sandy's way over. Those beaches are fine. They need you. We do not need you.
Isn't there an Ocean City jersey you could be bothering right now?
The only Ocean City that's trashier than ours, Ocean City, New Jersey. Yeah. And of course,
all I think about too is in moments like this is all the novelty T-shirts and hermit crabs and novelty bongs. Like you can't really use them, but they just say Ocean City on them.
Yeah, so and it's a bong, and
so you could
look
get in
like trouble for it, but you can't smoke anything out of it.
Yeah. You get in trouble for having it, and it doesn't work. So it's like a double. It's like getting arrested for a fake gun. It's like, well, it looks like a gun, so therefore you're going to jail. No, it's fake. It's got an orange tap on the end. Nah.
I didn't see the orange tab.
Looks like you're gonna spend 10 years in jail.
What are you, the Baltimore Police Department? Don't carry fake guns, Christ. But the meme of the weekend was I wonder the number of Americans waking up with the last time for all 10 fingers. And we were not without tragedy this weekend. Some 100,000 fireworks related injuries over the course of the weekend because America. But maybe the most tragic was the loss of a player of our national pastime. And you might be saying to yourself, well, I didn't hear about any baseball players being injured. And it's not baseball. Well, NFL? I didn't hear about any NFL players. And you're like, no, not NFL. And you're like, NBA, Major League Soccer. And you think to yourself, how far do I have to go down on the list of sports until I reach this America's pastime? And then I would have to correct myself and say, Canada's pastime. And you would say, oh, the NHL.
Listen, you make fun of it, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are up 3-0 on the Montreal Canadiens as we speak. I mean, by the time this podcast is out, Tampa Bay might be lifting the cup again. So, America is the winner of the Stanley Cup for, I think, pretty much our entire lives. I can't remember. Montreal hasn't won. Ottawa hasn't won. Toronto certainly hasn't won. Vancouver lost and rioted. Did Calgary win? Edmonton, I guess, would be the only. Was Edmonton the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup? God damn.
Well, I just want to say that unlike the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't have to wait till tomorrow to lift my glass. Or, I'm sorry. What is it? Cup. My cup. Yeah. There we go.
Hold on. Now it's bothering me. Because 100% sure it wasn't the I like how I type in Stanley Cup winners in Google, and then it gives me a list of all the teams and the logos and stuff like that. And then Brian Rafalski is counted as the 2008 champion, just like all by himself. It's like,
why?
Wow, that was what a year. Brian Rafalski.
That was a lockout year, right?
No, it's just like he's listed on here twice. I guess because he was a member of the Detroit Red Wings, so like for some reason the Google is broken, so it's just showing his name instead of the Red Wings. Yeah. So God damn. The Edmonton Oilers, or no, I'm sorry, the Montreal Canadiens in '93 were the last Canadian team to win. Prior to that, they had a good run in the 80s, 90s and 80s. 90 was the Oilers, 89 was the Flames, 88 was the Oilers, 87 was the Oilers, 86 was the Canadiens, 85 was the Oilers, 84 was the Oilers.
What we've learned from that is in order for a Canadian team to win, they must have the greatest player in the history of the National Hockey League in order to win.
Well, or be the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
Or the Calgary Flames 1 year.
That was those were the Oilers that had Wayne Gretzky before he left and went to LA.
By the way, I love we talk about how much we hate the Yankees regularly on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the Montreal Canadiens are the Yankees of the NHL. They've won 24 Stanley Cups, right? It's more than anyone else by a lot.
But back when there was like 7 teams.
Well, yeah, a lot of them were earlier when there was not as many teams.
Much like the Yankees.
Same thing with the Yankees, yeah. Like when they're, and when the lack of a salary cap was, or the lack of any kind of financials involved in getting players was so much less of a concern. You know, the Yankees could just buy Babe Ruth and that was it. But the Canadians haven't won since 1993.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't it be grand if the Yankees had gone 27 years without winning a World Series? Oh man, I would be so happy. I would die happy.
It's been a while though, right? Like they haven't won in like a decade.
Yeah, 2008 I think was the last time the Yankees won. Something like that.
But we're on our way.
Yeah.
We're well on our way.
Anyway, back to the
point
tragedy.
Is, that the tragedy is an NHL goalie whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yep.
Unfortunately lost his life in a firework related tragedy that is so American. If you wrote it in a screenplay, they would edit it out because they'd say this is just, unless it's a Final Destination movie, then they would let you keep it in. It is a Final Destination style death of being rich and putting on a fireworks display for your friends and sitting in a hot tub and having one of the fireworks tip over directly pointed at that hot tub. And then as you go to get out of the hot tub, to get out of the way of the fireworks, a firework hits you and you trip and fall and hit your head. And that's how you die. Like that, is that not Final Destination-y? Like I could see like the fireworks sitting there and like the wind blows and like the little leg that holds it up goes over and it tips. And that's the moment where it's like, oh, it's going to fire directly at him. It's like the logs on the back of the truck.
Yeah. I mean, this is incredibly tragic. He was only 24 years old too. And the one thing that I hadn't heard the story until Rob brought it up to me before the show. And my initial reaction was, oh, this idiot was lighting off his own fireworks and just like hit himself. And almost the first reaction I think of most sports fans nowadays when they hear that sort of thing is, why would you put yourself in that position?
Yeah.
Because it's like a natural reaction. And then you find out that he wasn't like involved. He was separated from it. But then like,
he was involved in so much as I believe it was at his house and he had paid for the fireworks. So like,
oh yeah, but I mean like it wasn't like fucking Jason Pierre-Paul or who was lighting off fireworks and blew off part of his hand. Like
yes.
This is a different type of like I feel like every once in a while a story will come out about some athlete doing something that was definitely not allowed in their contract and then they got hurt from doing like, you know, like you went like mountain biking or something like that and it's like absolutely not allowed in your contract and you voided your entire deal and it becomes like the warning to every other athlete like, you know, like
don't do that.
Yeah, you can do other things, just don't do that. Don't do anything that'll put you in the, you know, and then obviously like there's any number of ways you can hurt yourself without doing something extreme, and those are covered. You know, like when Sammy Sosa threw out his back because he sneezed too hard, like that was covered because that was a freak accident. It's not. So,
by the way, on that story, I remember laughing so hard at that story, and now I'm at the age where Sammy Sosa was when he did that, and I can 100% imagine myself throwing my back out from sneezing too hard, or from holding a sneeze in. Like doing that little like half hunch sneeze. Yeah.
I haven't fully thrown out the back, but I definitely have sneezed so violently that like I feel like I had to like lie down. You ever get you get that like tingle in your back and you're just like, oh no, I need to lay down for a couple hours.
Don't get old, kids. It fucking sucks.
My days
just keeps getting worse.
But yeah, I another one. You remember Joel Zumaya of the Tigers when he ruined his career playing Guitar Hero? That was it.
By the way, also at the age I feel like I would need a day off of work. I'd take a sick day for playing Guitar Hero for an afternoon. Just like the next day, I'm not going to be in good shape.
God.
Getting old's the worst.
Yeah. And obviously what a tragedy with Matisse there. It's just God. I mean, so even in that situation, you say to yourself like, you know, I'm doing everything right by hiring a professional and not being involved. Like everyone else can enjoy the fireworks on my financial bequeathment. And then all of a sudden the fireworks launch at you and God, what a tragedy. Not unlike the 400 shooting deaths that have happened here in the recent. I mean, like, it's not just fireworks that are killing people or injuring people.
So I generally put this under the catalog of fuck the 4th of July. And I did that because I mean, you say what fireworks we have in Hollywood. I don't know. I much like Memorial Day did not celebrate. I spent the day composing music, which was weird, but like I heard like a little like tune and then downloaded a ton of synths and 808s and made a beat, which was something. Corey, I mean, I played it for you. It's something, right? So
yeah. Listen, way better than I would have been able to jerry together in an afternoon for sure.
Starting my second career as an EDM producer. You can find me at EDC next year. Hopefully, if COVID doesn't take. We'll get to that later. But I saw like a video on Twitter of like a Walmart breaking out into like everyone standing at attention with their hands over their hearts when the national anthem played, and a bunch of people celebrating the 4th of July and just being like, okay, so you had to structure this for 3 months so that you got off from all 3 of your jobs today so that you could go out to a fireworks show because the 3 jobs are required for you to keep your house and feed your family and like live in the country you are celebrating so much. And the only thing I can compare it to is like when poor people defend billionaires on Twitter as well, where they're just like, listen, you don't know Elon. First of all, you're not on a first name basis with Elon. He doesn't know you exist. What the fuck are you doing defending him? What do you have in common with him? And especially when I see people of color defending the 4th of July, like, by the way, you were not who those guys were talking about. The Declaration of Independence is a lot of flowery language, but when the boots hit the ground, when the rubber met the road, which they didn't have rubber then in that usage, but nonetheless, they did not picture you. They pictured me, not you, and not really me because I'm not a landowner. They didn't picture Corey either. Like, we don't have land, therefore we are not people, according to the founders. You have to have land. Now, that being said, Corey, I think if it were 1770, we probably both would have land. I would be living in a nice parsonage somewhere. You would be interning for an attorney because your dad was a lawyer. So that means you will be a lawyer. My dad was a preacher. So therefore I would be a preacher.
Right.
Both of us would have land. Ironically, based on where we grew up, we'd probably both have slaves too. Not because we liked it, but because, it's a cultural thing. I need to show.
Them's were the times.
Yeah, what's that?
Them's were the times.
It's a sign of wealth, right? I have enough wealth to own a person, and the more people you own, the more wealth.
The more wealth you have,
with it.
I mean, I never thought of 4th of July. I always liked the idea of America, of the idea of thriving for the more perfect union. Not that at any point in American history were we perfect or were we anywhere close to it, but the idea that when America meets a challenge, we come together and get on top of it. For the I mean, not every challenge,
like
not
a global pandemic where 2 million people are dead. We come together and we just do what's best for the group.
Obviously, the whole perfect union thing has been trying in the last couple of years. But I'm saying, to me, the aspirational nature of America has always been a bigger part to me than the current state of affair. Like, I'm not a wake up and say, well, America's perfect, let's not do anything different tomorrow. Like, I'm always of the let's do something to make this better version of America. Like, we have much to change and way more to do to get to the more perfect version of America that will one day be. But
as an example, like passing no need for concealed carry permits on the 1st of July, and then following that with a weekend with 400 shooting deaths nationwide, just making that more perfect union. Finding out that a condo that collapsed in Miami had basically paid their way out of inspections. They hired, ironically, in one of those years, a company from Baltimore to do an inspection, which is, we just pay you and you say the building's safe. And then that gets the regulators all far back. That's what you're selling. 4th of July at its best is celebrating this version of America, the one that is right now today, and celebrating its birth. And to me, I find nothing to celebrate there. And even if we are just celebrating its idealism, that's an idealism where some people who are very close to me are worth 3/5 of what I am worth. And
I mean, clearly that's why I don't like to look back on America. I mean, like, the idea that we are now the longest standing democracy is democracy is a constitutional republic.
Federal republic. Yes.
Yeah. Put in the shine of democracy.
I mean, but are we a democracy? Because also over the last 6 months, we've passed laws that restricted voting based on gender and race and location.
See, but
in 28 states.
This has always been part of it too, though. I mean, like the idea that you're going to be in a country with people you disagree with, and at certain points in time, people who have opposing viewpoints are going to be in power in places that will allow for things to happen. And the only way to get to the other side, to get to the sun shining on the other side, is to sort of live within the great experiment of other people doing things you don't agree with from time to time. You know, it's at least in my mind, as much as I don't think that, like Texas should just be opening up its concealed carry system to literally anyone who wants a gun. I think that, part of where we are as a country is that we have to let people do things that we don't necessarily agree with from time to time to learn where we need to be in the future,
And listen, some of those people who are in power,
I mean, nobody asked
think
me.
that you are not human, that you belong in a cage, that
well, I mean,
they were going to draw an abstract line somewhere in 1920s or 30s and say everyone who's come since then is an immigrant, but everyone who came before then, not an immigrant. Very much like Gangs in New York style. And so your grandparents came in 1945. They are clearly bad people from a bad country, and you should be shipped back home. And we're just going to allow that to throw. Or they are members of groups who think that because of your racial heritage, your ethnic heritage, you are a subhuman, and you are no better than garbage. You can be killed and have it not matter.
Well, I mean, clearly some people have had that opinion throughout the course of the history of America, which is why
this country is all about equal voices. Everyone has equal standing. We can say and believe all the things that we want. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously everything within a government is theoretical. Like anything within a society is theoretical. Like, does every single person within this country have free speech and the First Amendment and yada yada yada? Yes, of course. But there are many opportunities where I can say somebody's First Amendment rights have been denied. Somebody's right to expression has been denied. Like it's not that it never happens. It's just that it's, again, the aspirational version of what we're going for is that one day there will be no problems because we will have fixed them all.
To paraphrase Will McAvoy, so when you say celebrate the 4th of July, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What's worth celebrating? And everybody should watch the
opening to the newsroom,
the very first episode of Newsroom, because that was pretty good. Or his speech from An American President, also written by Aaron Sorkin, ironically enough.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you bring up the newsroom, because it makes me think of our next topic here, when Will is interviewing a climate scientist and is saying, like, how many years do we really have left until, climate change is completely irreversible? And the guy's like, none. We've passed that a long time ago. It's just like, so we're done. It's just like, yeah. It's just like, is there anything we can do? It's like, if we stop right now, what we're doing,
2-0. Go 2-0.
Go 2-0 at this moment, like stop tomorrow, then maybe there's a chance that we can still survive on this planet for a little while longer. So, yeah, we have a bunch of stories about the ongoing climate crisis in America. So,
couple things happened this week, if you
in
weren't
the
aware.
world, to be fair. None of these actually happened in America, so unless we're counting North America.
It's strange because it's whenever an alien race invades the world, they always seem to invade America.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, we sat down to watch apparently 100 million people, the Tomorrow War, and it's one of the things I liked about that it started somewhere else, and then basically we were coming into it when it was in America, but it started somewhere else.
God, that movie was just. Sometimes I feel like rather than the rating system where it's PG-13 or R or something like that, they should have a rating system that just says this movie's just gonna try and explain things to you for 45 minutes at the beginning. Because I would actually I think I might have enjoyed Tomorrow War just as much if I had just not watched the first half of the movie. And just walked in. I could have just skipped all the exposition and just had just looked at you and been what happened? And then you could have given it to me in a sentence and I'd be oh, okay, cool. And then I could have watched the end of the movie without being explained to death.
I completely understand. They were very difficult concepts. So what you needed was a very smart person to hear the concepts and then explain them to you as per usual. We followed up our viewing of the Tomorrow War with, what movie do we watch right after it?
Dodgeball.
Dodgeball, which Corey thoroughly enjoyed from beginning to end. Not a miss in between. So if you're looking for a movie review, I'm just saying, keep that in mind. Comments about the first 45 minutes of the Tomorrow War. Thoroughly enjoyed Dodgeball at beginning to end.
What more do you need to know? Dip, dodge, dick.
Okay, so some events from this week. A couple of things happened. One, Lord Cthulhu is arising from the Gulf of Mexico.
Could be Godzilla.
And/or, what's that?
Could be Godzilla.
And/or Godzilla, yes.
Yeah.
My first interaction with this video was someone reposting it without comment. And I thought for sure I was watching a trailer or a non-trailer trailer for a movie coming up. Something was going to happen, but there are these 3 fireboats putting water on this bubbling, glowing bit of sea. And I'm okay, so Godzilla's going to rise out of it, right? Or, Cthulhu's going to come out of it, or the alien ship's going to rise out of it. And no, it turns out that BP had a leak at one of their oil drill sites, which then caught fire and then caught a significant area of the Gulf of Mexico on fire. So the water was on fire.
Not
and
BP.
I don't know how you put out water that's on fire. I don't know. I don't know what.
You think everything to solve that problem would be right there.
Yeah. A fire burns so hot it can burn underwater. So that happened, and then also the Pacific Northwest has been going through a very high heat wave, and it's also been drought conditions.
Was it really BP though?
I believe it was BP.
Hold on.
I don't know. I saw that commented one, and as soon as I saw it, I was well, that makes sense, and moved on. Because it honestly, if it's Amoco, if it's BP, if it's it's not Sitco, if it's any of them, it all makes sense. It does not matter. I'm just looking forward to South Park's follow-up episode to the BP DPing the Earth episode. So we're sorry.
Pemex, it says.
What is it?
Pemex.
Oh,
State
so
oil country.
It was in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, in the Yucatan
That's a national
Peninsula.
oil company for Mexico. Petroleum Mexico.
Yep.
So, Pacific Northwest, drought conditions, and it's also been very hot. And apparently a sudden shift in the jet stream caused some cool air to move in, which was great for the people, but caused some thunderstorms. The lightning then started some wildfires in Canada. And then jet stream shifted again, so the return of the hot, dry weather, and all of the dust and the ash from the fires actually caused the formation of more thunderstorms. And just when they got the fires under control, contained, those thunderstorms spawned by the ash and the smoke from the fire started bringing more lightning, which caused more wildfires. So at one point, basically there was wildfires across half of Western Canada.
Well,
And,
I mean, I would like to ask a serious question here because this was brought up during the California wildfires a couple years ago, and I think that now it should just be the go-to question. How long ago did they sweep the bottom of the forest floor to make sure there was no kindling just laying about?
well, I mean,
like,
yeah.
And do we,
generally speaking, it's
do we
wet,
have a
so.
do we have a God damn it! I was just gonna call him Pierre. What's
Canadian
Trudeau's
Prime
son?
Minister?
Yeah,
Is it still Justin Trudeau?
Justin Trudeau. Yes.
Yeah.
Do we get Trudeau sewn into a to a fire suit of some kind, like Gavin Newsom was too, so he can
Well,
he
I
can show
would
up to
say
the
that,
fire site.
The Pacific Northwest generally cool and wet, so the kindling not as important because everything on the ground is wet. Hot and dry is a problem because then yes, you get the kindling. It turns into kindling and turns into a wildfire. But so Gulf of Mexico is burning, and I don't mean like the land around it. I mean the water of the Gulf of Mexico on fire. Canada, basically half of Western Canada on fire, and then out of the Caspian Sea. A drilling platform there struck what they call a mud volcano, which is a rise in the seafloor of the Caspian Sea caused by gas that has likely been released because of drilling. And they struck one of those, and it caused an explosion that was visible for 400 kilometers around, which, let's see, 2.5 to the mile. So for like 170 miles around, they could see and hear this explosion.
That's quite a distance.
Was that good on the quick math? It's like 2.5, right? No, it's 0.66 kilometers to the mile. So base 2.
I only concern myself with the American measurements. I don't even.
So for about 200 miles around, they could see this explosion. And just so you know, America, our zone of influence offshore is about 200 miles. So if that had happened out off of the coast of Ocean City,
how many miles was it? 400?
400
kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been 248 miles.
There we go. So,
yeah. 0.62.
That is, what is it? Sorry.
0.62 miles to kilometer.
There we go. So that is far enough that in the open ocean, it's around the curve of the Earth. So it would have been like an explosion that would have been visible over the horizon. In the Caspian Sea, also over the curve of the Earth, but less apparently so because there's land on both sides. It's, the sea, it's above sea level. So anyway, an explosion that rocked seaside towns and was visible for a long ways. And I just have a question about why the oil companies are trying to destroy the planet, because 2 of those 3 stories come from courtesy of oil companies being irresponsible. And at what point are we just going to say we need to stop? Companies are trying. That we need to. Well, I got some weird feedback there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We need to stop worrying about oil because it's going to be a problem, not just for us but for the planet itself. And of course, another story this week: a town in Russia that is above the Arctic Circle had I must have heard the early week estimate of temperature because, as we found in our prep for today, had a 100-degree day above the Arctic Circle.
Yeah. Which, in case you're saying to yourself, like, well, it's summer, perhaps it just gets a little hotter in the Arctic Circle. That's about 40 degrees warmer than normal. So,
well, so it's about 60 degrees warmer than normal, but it beat the high by like 40 degrees. Like they can get into the 50s and 60s on a rare day. 40s, pretty normal, and it was 100-degree day. You go back to the newsroom and just say like, yeah, it's too late.
There was probably a point in time where it was just as hot in that town in Russia in the Arctic Circle as it was in Vegas, which is known for being hot. Like you're kind of avoiding the ability to say that it shouldn't be that hot when a really notoriously hot place is just as hot as the Arctic Circle.
And to be fair, it's not the last time that town in Russia has had that temperature, because back in the late Triassic period, when that town was actually closer to the equator, or the place where that town would be, then yes, it was probably on average between 80 and 110 degrees. And then tectonic plates moved and it moved up to the, surface or up to the pole. And then it was like, oh, it's going to be cold here a lot. Great. So a couple of issues. One, climate change is real. And the fact that this is happening now, along with 5 named storms in the Atlantic already, 2 of which are threatening land already, and gas explosions and wildfires and just monsoon seasons that are going to be crazy. Because this is happening now, that is your message that it is too late.
Yeah.
If they had stopped 20 years ago, then this would not be happening now, or would be happening in a less drastic way. So even stopping now doesn't really help, because these things are it's like sliding downhill. Like if you're on a skateboard, Corey, and you're going down a steep hill, halfway down you could be like, you know what, I should probably stop this, and that does not mean you're going to stop.
No.
But run it out to the bottom and hope there's no pebbles.
But there at the very least, if you're halfway down, there's a means to bail. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. You're still going to hurt yourself probably, but at least there's a way to bail, as opposed to the wait until the shakes get so violent that you can't do anything about it, and you definitely bail. Like it gets worse as you go down the hill, I guess is the point. And
and to be fair, plans are already being made. Bezos, Richard Branson, they're going to space. They're bailing. And then there will come a time when they need workers to work their mines or to clean their houses on Mars. And then that's when it'll be like the shaky bail. Then it's like, we don't want the pores, but I'm not going to clean my own toilets, and the robot does a really shitty job of it. So let's bring some of the pores with us, and then we'll have them here just to do cleaning. And then that'll be the shaky bail. And then everybody else is the guy at the bottom of the hill who waited entirely too long, didn't survive the shakes, and then went face planted down and did that scorpion on the pavement and slid to a stop on his face. Yeah, that'll be the rest of us. And not us, because I'll be long dead by that point. It'll be Corey's children or grandchildren who have to deal with that. So
I'm a ride on the side of the rocket ship, Bezos's rocket ship, like it's a train in India. That's what I'm gonna do.
And now Corey's uninterest in NASA has drastic consequences when he finds out more about space. But
I get up into space, and my eyeballs are popping out my skull, and I'm just like, I might have made a mistake. I should have paid attention.
Much like me suggesting a train trip for the crew, and Corey being like, it's gonna take us months to get to New York. Okay. It's 1877.
I was just joking because you said it would take months to plan. I was like, it would take months to do it.
Well, yes, it will take months to plan and months to do, and then we'll never end up doing it. So I know what are you gonna do. But climate change is real. We're all fucked. So let's ride this bitch till the wheels fall off. And what that means is, I'm just gonna make a daily celebration. It's gonna be my mantra. Most people get up and they do a little yoga, and they have like a little mantra they say. I am gonna wake up every morning, go to CVS, get 2 cans of hairspray, and then just sit and just spray them directly up into the air, so that we can just bring this whole thing to an end a little faster.
I mean, you're only one man. I don't know how much you could possibly change things, but we'll find out.
I've been told if I switch to plastic straws, I can change the world. So
metal straws, you mean?
What's that?
Metal straws?
Yeah, if I switch away from plastic straws.
Oh, yeah. Yes. To a reusable of some kind.
Yeah, I'll save the world doing that. So, I mean, if I can save the world, I can also destroy it, which almost makes me an evil genius, if you think about it.
I'm going to get a new plastic straw.
Oh, yes. So, some other stuff in the news, other stories that don't predictable, but don't really understand, like climate change, if you're Corey. Marjorie Taylor Greene, frequent topic on this podcast, had possibly the greatest self-own in history on Twitter this weekend, because she, like many people I know, probably Corey, because, he's friends with me on Facebook, got a message that said, you may have been exposed to extremist material. Now, I did not get that message. And the only conclusion based on my Twitter research is if you are the source of the extremist material, they didn't send it to you.
No. I didn't get a notification either, so perhaps
Well, I think
perhaps I shared a podcast that you were on, and therefore
I think that it's tending to skew to the right. The extremists that they're talking about are the ones who try to take over the Capitol on January 6th, and less the ones who are saying hippity hoppity, time for choppity choppity.
Yeah.
With an image of a frog and a guillotine, which I've shared widely, so because it's cute and also true. So Marjorie Taylor Greene posted the picture of her warning from Facebook about being exposed to extremist material. And in possibly the best self-owned / most tone-deaf response said, I wonder if Facebook can save me from all the Democratic messaging I've heard around me. Not realizing this was Facebook actually telling her, you've been exposed to extremist material. So maybe some of those groups that you follow are extremists who want to overthrow the government, and conspiracy theorists who have no basis in fact, in truth. But she missed that point and instead tried to own the Dems, and then basically had an inbox full of responses like, have you ever seen something so tone deaf?
Well, let me ask. We do this every time we talk about MTG here. Is it doing it for you? I mean, like, she's been trying to woo you here with her craziness, and I'm just trying to. Are we getting closer? Is this
Listen, I'm so messed up. The red flags don't even look red anymore. I don't even know. Her posting that is me finding her posting that is and telling you about it is my version of she's chained herself to the radiator. Gotta go. I just see that and I'm just like, God damn, this bitch is crazy.
I just wonder if Rob is sitting home in his PJs and his slippers, looking at the internet, and all of a sudden that story shows up, and he's just like, oh, I'll show you extremist contest, baby. Come on, baby.
I mean, it occurs to me. The problem, though, is that so I can't date normies because they think it's weird that
too normal
I am
for you.
So politically extreme. What's that?
Too normal for you.
For me, it's fine. I like normies because I need to be able to like turn it off and not be like screaming about how we need a revolution. I need somebody to be like, Taco Bell? Del Taco. I just need you to decide. I asked you one question. You went off on a 90-minute rant about immigration. I just need to know which one you want to eat at. So I need the normie, right? But then the normie, like 4 months later, when she thinks it's cool that like I can do you remember that picture from the party that we went to on the West Side where a conversation starts and then like 25 minutes in, I have people sitting on the floor all around me as I like proselytize about politics. Like it turns into that. And they see that. The normies see that and they're like, this guy, I mean, listen, he's got the body of my father. His bones crack when he stands up from that chair after sitting for 5 minutes, but he can hold a fucking audience. How about that? And then like 3 months later, they're just like, I've been asking about Del Taco versus Taco Bell. Just fucking question. And it's just too much and they have to leave. So then I try to date people who are like extremies on the left. And then like sometimes I just need to fucking turn it off and I just need to like not be thinking about it. And when you do that, you need to find somebody who syncs with you. Because then other times like they don't want to talk about it and they're like, can we just please watch the movie? We don't need to have a political analyzation of this movie. And sometimes you're doing that too, right? So unless you're in sync, it doesn't work. So I'm thinking dating an extremely on the right might be the way to go because you're going to fight the whole time. But I'm already fighting the whole time. So that's not different. At least I know going in, I'm going to be fighting the whole time. And I bet you the sex is fucking amazing. I say that, but I also bet fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene is the most boring goddamn sex I would have ever had in my life.
I could see it.
I imagine that on more than one occasion on our first time hooking up, the words, you want me to do what? Are going to come out of her mouth. And then I'm just going to have lost all interest in it whatsoever.
It's either so boring that you hate it or it's so scary that you don't want to do it again. I think it's either one end of the spectrum. It's not, and I know I say so scary you don't want to do it again. You say to yourself, there's no line that could be crossed. The limit
does not exist. The limit does not exist.
And then I say to myself, that's why it's scary. It's beyond the list.
There are things that Corey would describe him as nightmares, and I'd be like, stop! I can only get so erect. But yeah, I'm sure it would be terrible.
Just imagine that. Like, I'm trying to think of what could possibly be that most extreme thing, and it's terrifying.
Are we gonna play Never Have I Ever? I got a full drink. Let's go. But not to be outdone, former President Donald J. Trump decided that he was going to give a speech on July 3rd, and
to deflect from his organization being charged in New York court and his CFO,
and having his July 4th celebration canceled because the small town in Alabama that was going to the small town in rural Alabama that was going to host it said it wasn't a July 4th celebration. It was a political event that was too partisan. The small town in rural Alabama said that Donald J. Trump's event was too partisan, which gives you an idea of where we are as a society, I think. Just a lot. But the day before, he said at an event, and I want to read this quote verbatim.
Okay.
If you say it enough and keep saying it, they'll start to believe you. Now, that quote should be familiar to people. And it should twinge something in the back of your head, probably from like 10th or 11th grade at first, and then probably several times after that. But Corey, does that quote, is that familiar to you?
I mean, it sounds very familiar to me. The one that I know it's not, but the one that hit me right away was the Mark Twain quote with the a lie can get halfway around the world while the truth is still putting its boots on. But that's not the one we're looking for here. I know this quote though, and I can't remember for whom it is for whom it belongs to.
Now I just said Trump's quote. I want you to tell me whether or not I am repeating the same thing I just said, or if this is something else.
Okay.
If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it.
Yeah. It's I mean, like, it's not exactly the same, but it is essentially exactly the same. It's the same basic principle there.
Yes.
And I mean
that second quote
that's describing the big lie though. Not the current big lie, the before big lie. When they were
the previous big lie.
Yeah.
That second quote, the one who Trump seems to be paraphrasing, is Joseph Goebbels, who was the minister of propaganda for the Nazi regime in Germany from 1933 until 1945. So Corey and I on our pre-show call were discussing that and saying, like, there's no way. I said maybe he saw it in a quote book and didn't realize who the person was. And then Corey said, no,
what?
I was going to give you a chance to say what you said.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Corey said, you're giving him a lot of credit for saying that he read a book. And I was like, oh, you're probably right about that. There's no way that Trump read a book. So then the only conclusion I can come to is that Stephen Miller was walking around the West Wing saying that, and Trump picked it up, and just started repeating it, not knowing.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah, that's a good line. I'm gonna stick with that. And like Miller's walking around prefacing this with saying, like, well, we're not going to say this to anybody, and then using the Goebbels quote, and then Trump ignores him for the last part, but like as a he's like the beeper guy on network TV, where like he only starts paying attention when he's got to start paying attention, and he hears the quote and he's like, whoa, what was it? I'm gonna keep that in my memory. I'm gonna use that again. So yeah, he was quoting, essentially paraphrasing Joseph Goebbels.
I might even put it in my upcoming book. I haven't come up with the title quite yet, but I think My Struggle would be is the thing I'm kicking around the most right now.
That is a really I mean, listen, I was a leader, and then they took it away from me, and unjustly so, and now I need to organize everybody to rise back to power.
And then everyone started picking on America.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see
My struggle really fits. The translate. What would that translation be in like Spanish? It'd be like my difficulties. So like um me difficulties.
Well, I mean, the problem is that like in certain languages, it wouldn't translate perfectly.
Right.
Like, like sometimes you see a movie poster of somewhere, like The Hangover doesn't really like translate well into like Japanese.
Yes.
So they just
name it
changed the
something else?
title. Yeah, they just changed it to like One Crazy Weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I imagine in some places, it wouldn't be my struggle. Like perhaps in Germany it could be like struggle/fight. I don't know. Like it's some
Well, I was gonna
it's
say,
a word like somewhere in the middle there. I don't. Like,
I believe that book already has been a bestseller in Germany. I'm not sure they want to put something up to challenge it. So
I don't know if it's still allowed to be sold in Germany at this point.
But it outsold the Bible for a real short period of time there. Back in the early 20th century.
Well, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know.
Well, so we do have just a couple minutes and a couple other things. So let's just roll through these two things kind of quickly. The other big story of the week was about the Olympics and the U.S. Olympic runner who tested positive for marijuana after
Sha'Carri
her test
Richardson.
and was subsequently banned. Sorry, what was her name?
Sha'Carri Richardson.
Sha'Carri Richardson.
And I'm pretty sure I got that right. I haven't actually heard anyone else say it out loud, so if I'm mispronouncing it, apologies. I've only read
seen
the
it
name
in writing. That's why.
Yeah, I know that's the problem. I haven't watched SportsCenter this weekend, so.
So she won the race and I believe set the U.S. record for her time in that race, which was why she like pointed at the screen as she went across the finish line. Which, by the way, baller to like pull up just enough to point at the screen as you cross the finish line and still beat the record. Like, but she was unfortunately using some performance enhancing substances prior to the race. In other breaking news, Corey has been using those performance enhancing substances as well, and that is why he will be competing on Beastmaster this fall and going for the gold.
As long as I don't test positive, let's
Never mind, you're getting kicked off. That's not gonna make it. Sorry. But no, so she tested positive for marijuana.
they go to give me the drug test, and I'm just like, it doesn't count the stuff that just happened, right? Like it takes a little while for it to ingest, right? Because don't tell anybody I went behind the production van before this thing started.
So the controversy is, amongst other things, one, marijuana is not performance enhancing. It doesn't help you at all. And also, unlike other drugs, it stays in your system for much longer than other drugs stay in your system. So
also,
for instance,
just as a point, she wasn't high when she ran the race either.
Yes.
So the story I heard was her mother had just died.
Yep.
And she had was trying to get her mind off of it and ingested some marijuana, which was legal where she was. And I mean, legal.
Let's not brush over that.
Legal in the sense that, like, it's not legal federally. So, like, any place in the country where you can legally buy on the state level is kind of that quasi-legal territory where, like, yes, technically it's legal, but it's also very illegal at the same time. Like,
the trials were held in Oregon. She lives in Oregon, or lived there while she was training, and she trains in Oregon. In Oregon, it is legal to possess and legal to use marijuana. So she had broken no law other than the federal law, which, like, again, it's also legal in 40 other states in one way or another. So sure, it's illegal federally, let's just say.
Yeah.
But so it wasn't the federal team, it was the Olympic Committee that then basically said, we're not going to let her run. You, U.S. Track and Field, need to hand down some sort of punishment for this. So they gave her a 30-day ban, and that actually will let her compete in Tokyo, because Tokyo Games are probably going to get delayed because of, COVID. So so she'll likely be able to still compete if they put her on the team. But the question is, like, is she going to be allowed to run on the team? It's a whole thing. And this happened the same week that another Olympic body, the swimming body, didn't approve a Black-owned company who makes swimwear for Olympic athletes because they said that the swimming cap that they make, might give an unfair advantage to the athletes. And I did just a bare amount of research on this and found out that it is a cap specifically made for men and women with more natural hair, because regular swimming caps can be uncomfortable because it doesn't have room. It's made for white people's hair. It's made for hair that slicks down very easily and therefore can fit very tightly. This one just allowed for a little more room for natural hairstyles. And the Olympic Committee said it may give the athletes an unfair advantage. And the reaction I saw on Twitter, I thought was the best, which said, yes, it may give those athletes an unfair advantage, i.e., use the regular swim cap, and maybe that'll slow you down enough for the white swimmers to keep up with you. So,
wasn't there I feel like I read a story the last time the Olympics happened, which would have been 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
About like a Muslim swimmer who had to get like a special swim cap as well.
Yes.
To work with the faith, and there was some sort of problem with that originally, and then eventually that controversy went away. So maybe a similar thing will happen here.
Well, the problem is that the countries got together when the swimmer was not allowed to compete, and basically said, well, we're not going to come to the Olympics if you won't give us religious exemptions for certain wear, then we're just not going to send anybody. And so the Olympic Committee, another thing we learned this week, by the way, if the IOC doesn't hold an Olympiad, they can't afford to do the next Olympiad. They are living check to check, just like most Americans, which is great. So when they said that they were going to boycott, the IOC was basically like, oh, we can look into this. The difference here is that the company is an American company, and there is exactly zero chance that the American government or the American bodies will back this American company.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, some other countries that have black populations are backing the company versus the IOC or the FINA, which is the international swimming body, and saying like, well, listen, we're not gonna compete if you don't let us use this kind of gear, because now that this exists, we should be allowed to use it. And of course, like Sweden is like, good, fuck them. Leave them at home, because they haven't won a swimming title in since black people were allowed to compete. So, but other countries are very worried about the how it looks to have, based on race or religion, countries boycott. It's one thing if the U.S. boycotts because of the Soviets, and the Soviets boycott because of the U.S., because, I mean, nobody wants a nuclear war. But if we're doing it because of race and ethnicity, then it becomes a bit of a problem. So,
yeah, I mean, the whole Olympics thing just feels more and more unnecessary just as we go along, just because so much of it is based off of sort of the event of the Olympics as opposed to the spirit of the Olympics,
yeah.
And going back to Sha'Carri Richardson real quick, I am 100% in the favor of she should be able to run. We shouldn't really count this negative weed test against her in any way, shape, or form.
Positive weed test.
Positive, I'm sorry. I meant negative in the sense of this negative
Bad.
strike against her.
Yeah.
But I do, as bad as I feel saying this, I do feel like there are rules, and you even if they're stupid, you should know that they exist and know that it could potentially hurt you in some sort of way. I mean, like I there have been many times where somebody gave me a stupid rule and I said, well, that doesn't matter. But then you realize that, you what is your options, so I think that there's a lot of people who would probably smoke weed on the regular if it wasn't tested for, and they don't do it because they know that they're going to get tested. Like Michael Phelps was smoking weed all the time and then managed to keep a lid on it during the time where they would test him. So, I get that I get that it sucks and that it's stupid and it shouldn't be a part of the rule, and it should 100% be taken out of the rule book, like as far as a banned substance goes. But But at the same time, like everyone's gotta fucking dry up for a couple weeks before their drug test. So, it's just like if you, as somebody said, like, hey, Corey, you're about to get a job with the government. They're going to expect you to take a drug test when you get there. I'd be like, okay, so I better stop doing any drugs, bro. Like there should be a time period where I don't do it prior to taking that drug test because I will fail otherwise. And then you say to yourself like, oh, I think cops probably have this problem too. I've known a lot of people who like went through the academy and said like, I just had to pass this one drug test and then I'm good because I'll never be tested again. Yeah. So like it dry up for a month or two and then all of a sudden like you're allowed to smoke a joint after you've become a police officer again.
And don't forget, they can drink as much as they want, go home, beat their wives. It doesn't matter. That's okay when you're a cop. You just can't have that positive drug test at the end of the academy.
At the end of the academy, you just got to pass it once and then not show up on anybody's radar. That's basically how it works.
I think the ironic thing here, though, is that there is a female weightlifter who got an accommodation on testosterone testing because she is transgender and undergoing estrogen treatments. And there's a likelihood that her natural estrogen treatment will show as a positive test for both not estrogen, the other one, the P one that is in birth control. Can't remember. Anyway, testosterone and progesterone, that she's going to have high levels of progesterone and testosterone because she was born male and is now female, but she was given a waiver in order to compete.
Yeah.
So in one way, the Olympics are being very progressive and saying like, okay, so we're going to allow transgender athletes to compete in the gender in which they identify, so long as they've taken substantial steps in order to modify their gender to match what the one that they identify with. But then on the other hand, saying no weed though.
Yeah. I mean,
and it just seems bad.
It's an incredibly stupid thing, obviously, but like, rules are rule. Put it in another context. Like, I think there was some story about somebody failing a drug test because they ate poppy seed bagels or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like there was that
you
old.
can fail a drug test.
Yeah. There was that old chestnut. I don't know if it actually happened or not, but I mean, like, but if hypothetically
you regularly eat poppy seeds, it's not just one bagel, but if you had one like every morning, you'll test positive on a drug test.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if Trey Mancini every single morning was having a poppy seed bagel for breakfast and then failed a drug test, like everyone's reaction would be, well, that's really fucking stupid that they can't tell the difference between poppy seed bagels and opium. But you should also know what you're ingesting in your body and the potential of what might show up on a drug test if you're an athlete in that position. So like, it's one of those, like, even if you change it sounds so stupid because it's weed, especially in today's context where like weed is not demonized as much as it used to be. But at the same time, this sort of thing happens, like, people have failed drug tests. Athletes have failed drug tests for like things that they've eaten or vitamins that they've taken or like, and they inadvertently take something that they're not supposed to. And the reaction of everyone is always, well, you should know. So like, that's not, at this point, I can't really like, I feel bad for being like, you knew the rules when you signed up kind of person, especially on something stupid like this. But, at the end of the day, you knew the rules before you signed up. So
can I make it a little more foolish for you?
Yeah.
Trey Mancini eats a poppy seed bagel and tests positive. Doesn't matter because opium is an approved substance by the MLB because morphine, which also trigger the same part of the test, is an approved substance for use by medical staffs in the
well, and yeah, I mean, like there's other, like, you remember when Chris Davis got suspended for Ritalin or something like that?
Yeah.
Like,
and he literally that year he didn't get the exemption, but
he had a waiver to be able to take it for ADHD, and he had that waiver in place for every single year except for 1 year where he didn't get it approved for some whatever reason, and then he failed a drug
by
test.
His agent.
Oh, okay. Then he failed a drug test, and then he got suspended. But at the same time, that's stupid. It's stupid because if you have ADHD, Ritalin. By the way, for people who don't know, because I have ADHD. Ritalin for me has a very different effect than if Rob took Ritalin. Rob gets the like crockhead kind of like reaction to it. Whereas if I take it, it feels like I just got hit in the back of the head with a 2x4 or something. Like it slows me down enough so that I can think about things and natural
like your dad
processes.
is standing over your shoulder saying, "Don't make a mistake." And you're like, "Okay, all right."
Yeah, more or less.
Everything is very direct.
I mean, like honestly, I feel being on Ritalin when you have ADHD is more like being on drugs than anything I've ever done. But it's again, it's the rules. It sucks. The rules suck, and the rules should change. And I feel like we should give an exemption for her in this situation. You know, if she can manage to get to the Olympics without testing negative again or testing positive again, then I think we should just be okay with it. Like this was your stern warning. Like don't do it again, kind of thing. But like,
she took a drug that makes you sluggish, and it's technically a makes you hallucinate. It's a hallucinogen, and she set the record for that distance in time. Like, okay, let's just say we're gonna test her daily until then, and as long as she comes up negative every time, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
you guys should hope that she smokes before every event of the Olympics, because if that's her slowed down on weed, you want to see her at full speed? Come on.
Do you want to see what she's like when she's 2 months outside the pot? Goddamn Superman out there. One last super quick thing before we go.
Yeah.
The All Star Game, MLB All Star Game, is coming up next weekend. We have a bunch of interesting things going on. First of all, Cedric Mullins, the Orioles representative to the All Star Game. There was some wonder whether or not we'd have 2 All Stars, which seems weird for a team so bad. But we only had 1.
Well, we have standout players on a very bad team.
Yeah. Legitimately, the Orioles could have had 3 All-Stars probably with Cedric Mullins and Trey Mancini and John Means. Means being hurt kind of hurt him from being able to be included in that. And then Trey was just sort of like a on the outside looking in. There, he's being that first base DH corner outfield type. There's a lot of competition there, so you really have to break through.
And not Albert Bell. Pujols is back in the league, so I mean he's competing against some heavy hitters.
Well, he's in the National League now. He's in the National League now, so you don't have to worry about it. But some interesting things. First of all, Shohei Ohtani, we've talked about before here. First player in Major League history who is being elected to the All-Star Game, not only as a hitter but a pitcher. So he has both going for him. And obviously nobody was really doing pitching and hitting the same way Shohei Ohtani was doing since Babe Ruth. So it's not a surprising thing, but a very interesting factoid. And then amongst 2 of the Yankees who have got elected to the All-Star Game, Aroldis Chapman and Garrett Cole, 2 players that the Yankees have spent exorbitant sums on. Garrett Cole specifically is in the second year of his $300 million contract with the Yankees. And I have some interesting numbers here of Garrett Cole's first 52 innings pitched and his most recent 52 innings pitched. Which line up pretty nicely with the crackdown on sticky substances that has happened in Major League Baseball here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So to start the year, Garrett Cole, 5-1 record, 1.37 ERA, 0.68 walks and hits per innings pitched, and a 13.3 K per 9.
That's strikeouts per 9 innings.
Strikeouts per 9. All those numbers are very worthy of an all-star caliber player. Right. That if I told you, he had that kind of performance all year, you might even say he's a Cy Young winner. Like that's very impressive numbers. In the 52 innings that have followed since the crackdown, 3-3 record, a 4.47 ERA, which is almost 3 times as much, and a 1.24 WHIP, which is twice as much, and a 9.8 K per 9, which is down significantly as well.
Yeah, strange.
It's almost like Garrett Cole went from being one of the best pitchers in the league to being Garrett Cole when he was on the Pittsburgh Pirates again all of a sudden.
And you said that there's only one real thing that's changed over those 2 sets of 52 games.
Yeah. And I mean, the same thing could be said about Chapman. Chapman went from being one of the most dominant closers in all of baseball, having another career year, to in the last couple weeks being surprisingly mortal. Gave up a home run on a pitch that he threw for 83 miles per hour, which I didn't even know he could throw so low. That was I think that was the slowest pitch I've seen of Chapman's entire career so far. And it was parked in the seats and quite a distance there.
If you're the hitter, though, how much do you think that like you almost foul that off? Because when it's coming at you 10 miles an hour slower, and you're just like, the fuck, like trying to slow this thing down as you come through.
Well, that's always the the thing about the changeup. Like the reason why you fool people on the changeup is because it's 10 miles slower than the fastball, and you can't. It looks like a fastball coming out the hands.
Exactly the same coming at you. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's slower across the plate. And you look like an idiot. Only this time, it's clearly a fastball the whole time, and it's just getting parked in seats. So, I wonder. You know what? Maybe we should do some. We should allow the sticky stuff just for the All-Star game, like just carte blanche. Just like let them do whatever they want. Just to see. I mean. I get it. I'm not in support of cheating or using of foreign substances or anything like this. But at the same time, you're going up against a literal all-star team. If anyone's going to hit against a pitcher with the sticky stuff, you would think it would be the 9 best players from the other league.
The All-Star game is for the hitters. It's not for the pitchers. So they actually get more that the pitchers are human when they come up there.
By the way, we do have Boom Boom in the home run derby.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he is playing.
And I would like to say that the Coors Field home run derby is going to be really something to see. So if you guys are interested, I would tune into the All-Star game weekend coming up next week and enjoy that, because for sure it's going to be better than the All-Star game that didn't happen in Atlanta. having a home run derby in Colorado is going to be a lot of fun.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Along the lines of your suggestion. Right now they do a All-Star weekend, which really starts Tuesday and then ends the next Thursday, if I remember correctly. So it's like a little more than a week.
So now it's like a whole week. They do the whole week off, and then they have like the future game and like the celebrity softball game and all that sort of stuff that happens throughout the course of the like programming during the week.
I say that we make it a 3-week affair. We push the start of the season back 2 weeks, make the end of the season out 1 week if you need to extend in either direction, and then have everybody go off the same day, right? And then allow the guys to start a cycle of steroids. And then we have the All-Star game on the very last day, and you tell the pitchers, you could go out there with sandpaper and sand the ball down visibly if you want. But the guy you're throwing at is at his peak performance on a round of steroids. So good luck. And then I think this will be a good way for us to pivot into the superhuman league, where we do no drug tests and just let people compete at their highest caliber. Which I think will be an offshoot of Major League Baseball, where it's going to be like Super Major League Baseball, if we follow the Nintendo rules, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, MLB, SMLB, and have some guys that like Mark McGwire, probably. He could do a couple rounds of steroids and get back out on the field, and he's like, I'm playing first base and DH. I don't have to move that far, but just throw that ball at me. We're going to knock the shit out of it. So
see, I worry. I worry that might not be enough time though, because it took an entire offseason for Barry Bonds' head size to go up like 4 hat sizes. So
you're talking about a symptom and an effect, but on your 3rd week of a cycle of steroids is where you are at peak performance, because then you take the next week is your off week, because you have to give your body a rest because you've been stressing it out so much. Yeah. And then you cycle again you start a new 4-week cycle. So what we'd have to do is to waive the test for the 2 weeks after the All-Star break and for the 3 weeks leading up to it, and just let them go bananas. Try whatever crazy shit you want. Last game of the whole 3-week period is the All-Star game. Then, we restart and then waive the test for a couple weeks, and then 2 weeks later start the test again. And it'll be out of your system. It'll be a rough 2 weeks in the clubhouse because people are going to be real moody. But
By the way, just as an aside there, famously, Barry Bonds in that offseason where all of a sudden he seemed to get bigger and stronger, went from a 10.5 size shoe to a size 13 in a couple months. A side effect I did not know about until I heard about it. But
now, wait, I know what you're thinking,
can
Corey,
you
and I just
imagine?
want to tell you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it shrivels up the rest of it. So don't,
Yeah, he went from a double XL cup to an M cup. So I'm just saying, it's not a growth everywhere.
I don't think they sell M cups. I think it's like the astronauts where they're all super extra large.
Having played baseball as an adult man or a teenage man, I can tell you they do, and it's an awkward conversation.
Walking up to the shed at the LTRC going like, small, please.
No. The problem is they run out of extra larges until day 3 when people are starting to return them. Like, actually, we just need to go down.
I feel like some people the astronaut thing might have gone over their head.
Yeah.
So famous story. When the astronauts first went into space, for lack of a better term, they had to wear condoms because something happens and you need to have that area covered. I never really understood it.
Gravity causes your pee to go in the toilet. Otherwise, it, like any liquid, will just float in every direction. So
okay, so that's for peeing purposes.
Yeah, you need like a suction, but also something that covers the entire penis so that as it starts to escape, it goes in one direction generally.
Right. So NASA had to ask all the astronauts what size pee condom they needed. And every single one of them said, oh, biggest one you got, blah, blah, blah. And they kept falling off. And they realized that they really needed smaller ones, but the pride of these men was too big that they wouldn't be able to find themselves to be able to tell them that they needed a small condom. So they just changed the naming system of the condom. So like the smallest one was super extra large or something, and like went to colossal or whatever at the high end of the scale. It's like a Starbucks cup thing that I don't quite understand.
But one little detail you skipped over is while they were telling them about the sizes, they said if any liquid escapes in the capsule, there's a chance it will fry the electronics and you won't be able to return to Earth. And the guy still said, no, I need the biggest one you got. Even though you knew you are risking not coming back to Earth, but you are not going to tell this guy.
Jesus.
Which, by the way, the helmet was invented 20 years after the cup in the NHL, or made requirement like 20 years later.
Yeah.
So just keeping in mind how guys think and what they hold as important. Astronauts would rather die in space than tell a doctor that they need a small condom, and hockey players would rather protect their balls than their brain, because
And not only that, but if you got grandfathered in, you could play without your helmet for as long as you wanted to. I don't think there was a single motherfucker who was grandfathering in no cup.
I wonder if there was even a petition. Like, listen, I've been skating my whole life without a cup.
Like fucking Gordie Howe is just like, listen, it slows me down. I got clipped in the nuts. It's fine. I don't care.
I got shit to contain down here, and they'll make them big enough. I don't know what to tell you.
Anytime we get a good Gordie Howe reference, I feel happy. By the way,
nobody knows who that is.
By the way, somebody knows who that is. If you want to get your sticky substances, you know where you go.
Where's that?
Corey to OTheanthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
Oh, I just want to say before you continue, I'm not sure I like the association between sticky stuff and the website for OTheanthem.com. It's not that kind of website, Corey.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. We're trying to branch out into new business ventures here. The spider tax illegal. I'm trying to put together my own little system here. Some O The Anthem for the baseball players out there.
Click on the see, I went a different direction. I was going on the click on the beaded curtain on the background, and it'll take you into the special space in the back of the website.
Well, we don't provide the sticky stuff in that case. Transition. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You know what I'm about to say. There will be new stuff coming soon.
Is there new stuff coming?
Listen, I'm inside of the new studios here. Inside of the building here, there is actually space for which I can go and make content. So I intend to do that, and I intend to put it up soon and share it all with you. So enjoy.
You can find more of me at Robert and Chico on Social Networks.
There's little Rob.
I guess yeah, the box.
It didn't reset.
Wait, let me make sure I'm centered here.
Just like disembodied head.
I do have new content up. The 90-minute video, the major motion picture that I put up 2 weeks ago, still available. I have a video up a lot from last week, which is a review, like an box opening, unboxing. And I have another one that's going to be up later tonight. So look for that. You can find all of that on my YouTube channel, and links to that is at robertandcheek.com.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, especially moving the studios to a gentrified neighborhood where, kicking out people of color, taking them over by fancy white people with their fancy apartments. But
nobody was kicked out. It was just this is just an empty lot that turned into an apartment building. So don't think.
All jokes aside, it's called Mission Junction because the Pacific Railroad called it the Junction at Mission. It was a rail yard that it was just basically open lot. So
yeah,
only homeless people got kicked out.
I'm basically living in Camden Yards. All right.
Yeah,
that's the way I choose to look at it.
Oh yeah, and much like Camden Yards being built, they kicked out all the homeless people, but they're not real, so they don't matter. It's fine.
The homeless people weren't living there, not in Baltimore, at the very least.
Anyway, we've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey and Roberto, by the way, shout out Roberto, who again in the studios with you, chose not to produce. So if anybody's looking for producer duties, we got an open spot. This is Rob. Have a good week, everybody.
And everyone, pass your drug test, please. We don't need no trouble.
I've been straight edge for like the last.
You ain't been straight shit.
All right. Do you still have